welcome along to our next conversation. Great today to be joined by Olivia Smith. Olivia is a historian who currently advises television documentaries, and prior to that as well, something she will be talking about was her time with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission as an intern during 2018. But that's enough from me. I'm going to pass over now to Olivia to introduce herself and say hello.
Hi Paul, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is really exciting. So right now I'm basically a public historian working in TV. It's a fantastic project to be working on. I feel like for me, definitely, we'll touch upon it a bit later on, project-based work is very much suited for me. So it's fantastic to be working on what I class as quite an educational project for everyone.
Olivia, one of the things that we've been asking pretty much everyone that we've spoke to so far is about their memories of studying history at school. What sticks out for you? What do you remember?
Oh, I loved history at school. It was always one of my favourite things. I think I had a fantastic, I think like everyone says it, a primary school teacher. And we used to do every year like a Roman day or a Celtic day, Viking day, and we'd dress up. And I think for me, just that kind of creativity as a child really engaged me into the history of it. And I remember when I left primary school, I had to do a play and I played Queen Victoria. I could still hear the line up. I had one line, that was it. And all I had to say was, I'm Queen Victoria. That was purely it as a child. And all those little things just really stuck with me. But as I kind of got a bit older, I think for me what really, really engaged it, which might not have been at school, but I think definitely inspired how I engaged with history at school, was I grew up in a beautiful Victorian house and we had to move out when I was about 8. I was beyond traumatised as a young girl that we had to leave this house. And so from a young age, I then went and just conducted so much research on the house. And back then, that was the old PCs. Google was barely existing. So it was quite a bit of a project to do. And then it came to about high school and we had to do an English project. And everyone else was doing fictionalised projects. And I was just there thinking, I can't engage with fiction, never have done. I'm sorry to anyone, it's just not my thing. So I instead did a non-fiction project on the kind of Victorian history of where this house that I grew up in. And my teachers were just astounded. They were like, they just couldn't believe that I produced this work. And to me, it just like engaged, and I think I got like an A in it. I did really well. And I started to realise I loved history and I could also do well at it. So when it came to GCSE, unlike everyone else in my class who didn't really engage, and I remember being like one of only 3 people who loved history. And so it was just exciting. Exam time was exciting. I loved revising, all of it. I remember what really stood out for me in high school was we did the history of medicine, probably one of my favourite GCSE modules. And my teacher showed a clip from Horrible Histories of the Plague Doctor. And me and him were the only ones in the whole classroom that really belly laughed at it. And I kind of knew at that moment I was a true history geek.
During 2018, you were one of the interns for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Now that's interesting that you're there essentially at the end of the centenary period for the First World War, but tell us about that. What was that experience like? It
was honestly one of the best experiences I've had so far. I feel so lucky to have been one of the interns. I was actually going out to the battlefields before with the Western Front Association. A lovely chap called Andy Tonge was so kind and kind of took me under his wing and showed me around Ypres. And I was out with him for the armistice in 2017. And we were at the Menin Gate and he introduced me to some interns there. And afterwards I rang my dad up and I was like, I'm going to be one of them. I'm determined of it. And so I then applied for the internship. I found out, I think actually a couple of days before Christmas in 2017 that I got the interview. And so we then went in January for the group interview. So they've narrowed you down from I think it was 120 people. You narrowed down to 40. And that 40 were in a big interview room. And then they kind of go, right, here are our commissioners. And you've got all the head commissioners there, the historians. And it's basically, they went, sell yourselves. So in this room, and little nervous me had to go up and just introduce loads of people. Luckily, 2 of the historians, Max and Glenn, knew my dissertation supervisor really well. So I kind of had a bit of a conversation started with them. And then after that, the morning, you go into a group interview in the afternoon. And my group interview, I was with Victoria Wallace. So I was very nervous to have the Director General kind of doing our interview, and she was sat next to me as well, and I saw she had like a piece of paper and she's making these notes. I couldn't decode her notes at all to figure out what she was doing. And I come out there thinking, oh, it's a wonderful experience. I don't know what's going to happen. And a week later, people who I was with on the interview had messaged me saying, I got it. And I literally was there like, I haven't got an email. I was so upset. I rang my mum. I was in tears. I was like, oh, what did I do wrong? And then I refreshed my emails and I got it. And I couldn't believe my luck, and I was then tears of joy. It was fantastic when we went out in July. It was when we had that really, really hot heat wave. So our first 2 weeks when we moved there, because all the interns lived together in Arras for 2 weeks, and then you do your training. So we spent like days in the Somme, days in Ypres, and it was just fantastic, but so ridiculously hot at the same time. And after that, then they the Belgian lot go over to Ypres, and then the France lot, we all stayed and lived in Arras together. And it was phenomenal. And to start out, it was a bit daunting. I mean, a lot of us, some of them didn't know the histories because the commission wanted people who are more approachable to the everyday public, because obviously you're a representative for the commission, you're in a public-facing role. The history came second, but we had fantastic teachers for our training, and it was really exciting to kind of the first time we were all on site together was for the RBL a pilgrimage, the 90 years pilgrimage. So we had hundreds and hundreds of people coming through, and it was testing our knowledge of these people asking questions, and it was a really good thing to be kind of thrown in the deep end for. And that set us up for the rest of the summer. We had the most beautiful weather because every day we were outside at Tietval. And the people you engaged with, we all said with every single day was never the same at all. You'd have school groups. So one day you could be talking to a lovely couple and you're helping them find a great aunt, uncle on the memorial. And then the next day you've got a bunch of 40 school kids there. And I used to be a bit naughty, and the head gardener would tell me off because at the bottom of Tietval, there's the old German front line, the trenches there that you can go in. So if I had school kids and I'd just kind of go, come with me, and I'd start my tours in the trenches there and to kind of give them a contextualization of where they are and why the memorial was significant. And the head gardener kind of always used to give me a look and go, you shouldn't be doing that. And I used to think, it's for their experience. I think because I used to do hospitality and you always taught the guest is always right. And I think I very much brought that mentality to, the visitors are always right. You want to give them the best experience. So other than just school kids or lovely families who you'd meet all the time, I was really lucky, I think, in terms of my public engagement to meet other historical organisations on the Somme as well. So after our first 2 weeks of training, I pretty much thought, I can't be living here, like in Arras. The Somme was quite far away, you couldn't get a bus, you couldn't really get a train either. And I went back home in a day, got my car, and brought it back, and I still say it's one of the best things I did. And on one of my first days off my own, I poodled down to Hawthorne Crater, and that's where I met, at that time, all the archaeologists were there. Everyone was excavating, they were doing the historical kind of foundations for the crater. And I then went into Tietval Wood after meeting all these people, and some of the guys recognised me because of my intern boots. They gave me the best walking shoes that you could imagine. And I then got invited after I described this to my mum in a text to kind of joke with her. I went, hi mum, I've just met some men in the woods and I'm now going down some tunnels with them, and left it at that. She wasn't impressed, but and I went down to Bosun Court tunnels with them, and it was the most phenomenal kind of experience because I just kind of put myself out there a bit publicly with the history, and I learned so much from all of them one single day. And still now I'm very much connected with the Hawthorne Crater lot as well. I was very lucky as well as an intern to kind of work with, I'm a big rugby fan, as I believe you are as well, Paul. Work with a charity called Rugby for Heroes. So on the Tietval Memorial, I think there's about 9 international rugby players on there. And I managed through Twitter to work with the memorial and get Mike Tyndall and his rugby lot to come out to Tietval, a part of their charity cycle ride, where they bike from Twickenham to Compiègne. And they came and visited us. And that was another fantastic project to be a part of, because it applied the history of the First World War to kind of a bit of a passion and a different area for me. So any time I then had rugby fans who'd come out, and especially kids, I found it was a really unique way to engage them and to kind of like tap into people's interests as well. But with the centenary, we were so lucky to have so many different events come to the memorial. And in terms of like bands, it was so odd. We were always really, really excited by bands because it was something really different. So you'd hear the music and you'd be like, oh, they're coming. So it was a lovely event to be a part of. And on one occasion, I remember we had all these bands there and we were really like, oh, what a lovely day, to find out we were so, you know, engaged with these people. We didn't even realise that Peter Jackson was on the memorial. We'd completely ignored him. And I think that was always a bit of a gripe for us all. And one of my favourite moments was I walked onto the memorial thinking, what's that noise? And in one of the archways, a man had just set up a chair and he was sat there playing a cello. And that was just, it echoes through that memorial, and it was an incredible, poignant moment. And the same with a bunch of school kids come and set up their own orchestra. And it just took you by surprise because the music was so poignant, and you just found yourselves looking up at this memorial. And people always ask, how do you deal with your emotions? And you do get to a point where you're kind of like repeating your tours and repeating your content a lot, that you blur out the emotions, but those kind of with the music and just that brings you down back into the memorial. And God, some of us girls, and I know the boys did as well, we all just had a good cry because we were constantly, we said, surrounded by death in that essence, and you knew what an important job we were doing in terms of keeping their memories alive and really kind of providing this education, especially for the next generation.
Olivia, you're someone who has studied history at university, both as an undergrad and then again as a postgrad. So, you know, you make the assumption here that history is something that's important to you. So why is that? Why is history important?
I just think history, it is who we are. I think you can pinpoint any moment in history and really bring it back to today. For me, I'm just so utterly fascinated about what happened in the past because there's so many elements of it that are around us still. And we kind of, I think you go to your day-to-day lives and you don't really acknowledge it. Like you can see this beautiful building, but not know the context or the significance even behind it. Or, you know, I live in quite an old town. I still really to this day don't know the huge significance of what it used to play years and years ago. And I know it was because it's a huge fishing town. And that's, you know, shaped it who we are as a society now. And I think for me as an undergrad, I went into it kind of, I would say, with a very narrowed history, like historical knowledge. And my undergrad opened me up to so much. I think it really engaged my historical knowledge and passion even more, because I went from the kind of, as I classed them, the kind of popular histories of A-level. So you're looking at the rise of the Nazis, or kind of all the Vietnam and all the other stuff that the syllabus has set out to you, which are still equally important to learn and understand. But a degree, I found, gave you a real kind of worldwide perspective of history and what it means to kind of different people in different countries. So then when I was, say, going to Europe, I had this fantastic understanding of the early modern period and how really that shaped what they call the Industrial Revolution, and then who we are now. And I always think one of my favourite modules in history as an undergrad, was it was called The History of Chimneys. And we had that lecture, and hands down, all of us just kind of looked at each other and thought, this is not going to be interesting. And all of us afterwards were like, that was hands down one of the best lectures we've ever had, because our lecturer, Justin Colston, actually completely transformed our idea of how just one simple thing as a chimney transformed society and culture and how we live. And to me, I just find that utterly fascinating. And like, we even had another one, it was like the history of weather. And again, I was a bit like, oh, good God, how are you going to make this into a lecture? And afterwards, that was one of the stay kind of home lectures I think I had, because you understand how it was more like a correlational study, in the sense that bad weather could have bad crops, people aren't happy, rise up against the king and queen kind of thing. And you've got this kind of cycle of how it can impact societies. And it wasn't something I'd really thought about before, but then now, as a farmer's granddaughter, completely I understand how that could impact society and why certain events may have happened. So I think history is just so important. It should never be disregarded as a subject. It really is who we are. It shapes, I think, and impacts so many other subjects as well, people don't realise. The only reason I was able to ever do well in English at school is because one of my teachers taught me context. And when they contextualised English literature to me, because like I said before, I could not get my head around fictional things, then she put it in terms of context and I understood everything. And I think history has such an impact in, today, obviously, look at what we're doing with COVID. We're completely comparing it to the Second World War. If that didn't have Second World War happen, what would we be comparing it to? It's in terms of understanding today, and I think that's why it's so poignant.
And Olivia, just before we finish up, just curious, something I've been asking other people too. If you were speaking to a young person and they were telling you that they were interested in a career that was related to history, what advice would you give to them?
I would 100% tell them to follow it. Like, if it's your dream, if it's something you believe and are interested in, you've got to do it. Life is so short to not follow your dreams and not do it. I mean, every decision I've made in terms of my career have always been driven to do with history. I've always said I'd rather be employed than do a job that's not involved with history, because it completely defeats the object of where I've gotten myself to. I think I would say to them just to be like, you've got to work hard, obviously, because hard work will pay off to no end and you will see results. And it'll be exciting because if you're so interested in a subject, and if you take it to higher education, you'll meet different people, you'll learn different topics, which might take you off on different tangents what you expected, but it's exciting. Any opportunity, I think, that could come, you've got to go and take it. You've got to search for it because it won't be given to you at all. History is a very niche kind of career base. People aren't offering out jobs. You really have to go and hunt for them. That's something as when I finished uni, I was very I would definitely say that kind of post-uni depression, because I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. For months, I was looking and applying for jobs and there was nothing. And it was really kind of disheartening, thinking, oh, am I going down the right career path? Is this the right decision I made? And, when you go through those lows and you kind of question yourself, that's when I think you come out higher, because without a doubt, something will just miraculously turn up, and it will. And I always think if you're passionate and it's what you love, you have to do it no matter what.